Welcome to Big Tyme Journey. What should we talk about tonight? Have you ever felt like a clown that was putting on a show? Did you ever feel you were wearing a mask and pretending to be something that wasn't true? Do you ever feel like you're hiding from a world that is around you? Do you feel that you can step into a room, people, a stadium at a concert, an arena, football game, a baseball game? Could you stand in a million-man march and still feel alone? Does loneliness just seem to be the world around you? Does loneliness seem the place that you hibernate? And loneliness is the thing that exists even though you may not show the rest of the world? Is loneliness life? Is it what you've come to know? Can you be surrounded by the best of friends and still absolutely feel alone because you feel that they can never understand you if you're really, really opened up to them, if you really let them in, if you really showed them parts of you that you don't understand? Are you alone with family? Are you alone with friends? Are you alone? I understand what alone means. I understand what it is to just be absolutely, completely, and utterly alone, to feel loneliness and feel like there's some way beyond this. Is there some way to move forward from this? Is there some way to get better? Is there some way that the loneliness doesn't have to exist? The voices in my head don't have to continue to yell and shout over the loneliness? Is there a way? Is there a path? Why did I come here? Why am I stuck here? Loneliness is slippery slope because we do it to ourselves. We created the isolation, created out of reasons, whether it be heartbreak, whether it be hurt, whether it be a disappointing parent, whether it be trust broken, whether it be from the facts of trauma. We become isolated because we've been so hurt. We've been so wounded, so beaten down, so ran over, so just lost and unloved and left behind that we built walls. Walls to a fortress that can stand miles high. A wall to a fortress that we solidified. Fortress that we imprison ourselves in. Loneliness is our own imprisonment. But we find solace in it, and it's safe. Because if we go outside the walls, if we let down the gate, if we walk through the gate and over the moat and out into the world, then we can be exposed. We can be seen. People will know who we are and see our weakness, see our vulnerability, see who we really are, and never really be accepted. We've all come to a place of loneliness. We've all been placed in loneliness. Some of us pass through it, and some of us get lost in it and never find a way out. Some of us reach for a bottle, and some of us reach for pills. Some of us reach for drugs. Some of us reach for some type of addiction. An addiction can mean almost anything that we do to escape the facts, to escape having to face reality. That's where addiction stems from. We want to escape reality. We want to leave behind that thing that haunts us, those voices in our head that tell us we're no good. Nobody will love us. Nobody will want us. Nobody will care about you. Why are you here? When you are worthless and no good to anybody. We know those voices. We hear those voices. Those voices ring loud. You don't have to tell a lonely person these things. No, we know them. We hear them. They're a chant. They're a mantra that we have to overcome. Do you live with people and still feel lonely? Can you be a spouse with a loving partner with kids who adore and love you and still feel lonely? Because somewhere we've locked ourselves away because of some hurt, some pain. The great thing about loneliness sometimes is that those who are the most lonely will cause others to become lonely because we We lash out in protection. We don't want anybody inside. And when they get too close, we reject them. A horrible pattern of behavior. It becomes a cycle, and it becomes a safety net. It becomes the way we just seem to see the world. Not right, but it's part of who we are. And changing that behavior is very complex because we are so engulfed in our loneliness that to break out of that loneliness means to make ourselves completely vulnerable. And we know what it was like to be vulnerable. Somewhere along the lines, in a moment of vulnerability, we were hurt so bad that we decided that we were never, ever, ever, ever going to allow it again. And in that moment of vulnerability, in that moment of hurt, we allowed loneliness to step in its place. And loneliness to fill the void, to isolate us from the world, so we only grow more lonely. How do you get from loneliness to happiness? How do you move forward? How do you let go? How do you change? How do you push down the gates? How do you climb over the moat? How do you climb out of the castle? How do you move beyond the fortified walls? How do you put yourself out there? Part of it is just simply that. We just have to. We have to stop letting loneliness rule the world we live in. We've got to shut the voices up in our head because they're not true voices. They're echoes of the trauma that was created. They are echoes of the trauma that was created by outside forces, whether it be people or persons or things or places or times or events. The trauma occurred and we became survivors. Don't be a victim. Don't stick into victimhood. Don't play the victim that you're hurt and scarred, because it's simple. Victimhood goes right along with loneliness, because if we can play the victim while we are lonely, then we look like the poor and the meager. People take easier sympathy on us, and we don't really have to show who we are, but we still get some of that attention we desire. It really doesn't help us because it just becomes another pattern of behavior. We play victim. Our loneliness seeks in. We play victim. We get attention. We feel better. We fill the gap. Another addiction. Victimhood is easy, surviving is not. And that's what a person of loneliness really is when they have existed. When we break away from the victimhood and understand that we are survivors of loneliness, survivors of trauma, survivors of whatever events, persons, causes, whatever thing that put us in the place that we felt we needed to fortify ourselves in a wall, in a castle, in a building with mile-high walls. They're not simply feet wide. They're not feet high. They're miles high, and they're thick. They're the thickest walls that you could ever think of. They withstand any penetration because they're not going to come crumbling down because we built these walls. And we built these walls to the greatest security that we could ever think of. We're not going to let anybody able to penetrate or come through our walls, no matter what it takes. Loneliness is hard. Loneliness dramatic. Loneliness is imprisonment. It truly is. I mean, we become imprisoned for our own prison, and the voices in our head just get louder. And then we're pushed to find some way to drown out those voices. And sometimes we put on a mask and we put on a show and pretend that we're not lonely. There's nothing wrong with us. We're fine. We put on this mask. We make the dance. We put on the show. Nobody knows it but us. Nobody knows it but me. Nobody knows it but us. Nobody knows it but you. Because you play the parts. You show the hand. Set it all up in beautiful elegance. We make the most beautiful shows. The most creative minds come out of loneliness. Because we have to pretend that we're okay. Because we can't let anybody know we're not okay. Because if we let somebody know that we're not okay, then we're vulnerable. And if we're vulnerable, we're in danger. If we're in danger, oh my God. And the cycle continues. And the voices get louder. How do we get out of loneliness? How do we move forward? I've been alone maybe all my life. Maybe in brief times there was something that was special. At some point, loneliness became my world. And I built a castle, and I built walls, and I fortified them, protecting myself from the outside world that I'd never let anybody in. And then in that, I've turned and hurt anybody who ever got close. Went scorched earth, burnt bridges, burnt villages. I didn't just burn bridges, I burnt villages. I burnt anything in the line of the fire that would ever get close. My trauma comes from person who was already experiencing trauma, a person who was already very, very mentally ill, that I couldn't understand their trauma. I could only feel my trauma. And unfortunately, the cycle moved on. And I became a victim of my loneliness. I found solace in loneliness and isolation and being me. Never really let anybody in, and I never really let anybody close. I have loved and even felt alone. Say I've truly loved is on a very small number. True love for a woman, ultimate love, endearing love, soulmate love. As a friend, I have many loves as friends. There's many of my friends I love. And I know they love me, but I'm still in this existence at times that I find myself sinking into the loneliness, and I have to battle myself out of it because I don't want to be stuck there. I've come a long ways on the journey of life. I've overcome a lot. I've been freed from a lot of the struggles, and you too can. Doesn't mean we don't slip backwards, we don't get lost in the loneliness and the isolation. But it takes practice. It takes time. Gosh, I'm sorry. But you too can overcome the loneliness. It's about healing. You've got to let the healing in. And a big key to healing is love. And if we could all just love one another better, if we could all just accept one another, if we could just show love, embrace love, put love out. Not anger, not hate, not pain, not loneliness. Let's put out love. If we could practice and preach love, we could heal a world, we could heal a generation. But it is hard to love, because with love comes risk, with risk comes pain, the inevitable. With risk comes consequences, good or bad. Sometimes those consequences carry a burden that are so painful and run so deep that some of us never recover it from it. Loneliness doesn't have to be everything. You can overcome your loneliness. If you're feeling alone tonight, okay. No, there's a way out. If you're feeling lonely tonight, I hope you find some solace in whatever this is. Because I don't know, I just come on here and put it out into the universe. No, you're not alone. I love you. Don't be lonely. Lean on somebody. Let somebody in. This has been a Big Tyme Journey. Make sure you like, comment,